We rely on massive federal agencies like the Department of Homeland Security, right, to secure our borders, protect infrastructure.
Absolutely. It's a huge part of the government's job.
But what happens when those agencies are accused of, well, turning their power inward, using federal resources maybe for political tracking or domestic surveillance?
That's exactly what we're diving into today. We're looking at a really radical overhaul of DHS under its new leadership.
Okay.
And our sources here are pretty exhaustive. They detail these sweeping mission shifts, some aggressive budget realignments, all focused on efficiency, fiscal conservatism, and a very clear mandate to reverse what this administration sees as, well, the political weaponization of these agencies.
Right. So our goal here for you listening is to quickly pull out the most impactful bits of information. Things like that reported 93% drop in daily border encounters, which is just massive.
Number.
All the way to the, frankly, stunning termination of certain domestic surveillance programs. So you can really get a handle on how this political shift might immediately affect civil liberties and, where taxpayer money is actually going.
And we should probably jump straight into maybe the biggest immediate action we saw. That was the termination of that highly controversial airport surveillance program, Quiet Skies.
Ah, Quiet Skies, okay.
Yeah, this wasn't just some minor technical change. It's really the cornerstone of the administration's argument about the misuse of federal power.
So this program, remind us, this allowed federal air marshals to basically track U.S. citizens on domestic flights. And it was shut down immediately by Secretary Noem. She reportedly said it was being used as a rolodex politico.
Right, that phrase rolodex politico, it needs a little unpacking. It basically means the claim is the program was used more like a political tracking list, maybe a hit list, rather than for, actual counterterrorism.
Which is what you'd expect.
Exactly. And the sources seem to back this up with some pretty incredible examples. Documents confirm surveillance was placed on Tulsi Gabbard, who was then the DNI nominee.
Wow.
For 8 flights. And reportedly, this started just one day after she criticized the previous administration.
That timing is interesting.
It certainly raises questions. And furthermore, sources confirm at least 3 other sitting members of Congress were also quietly followed under this program.
3 members of Congress.
Mm-hmm. And here's the really astonishing statistic for me. This huge surveillance effort, DHS itself confirmed it failed to prevent any terrorist attacks. 0. None reported. Yet it cost U.S. taxpayers roughly $200 million a year.
$200 million.
Yes.
For 0 return on security. That's quite a headline.
Yeah, and let's maybe unpack just how invasive this program actually was. The surveillance, it targeted U.S. citizens, okay, but specifically people identified as, and this is a quote, who aren't suspected of any crime.
Wait, I have to stop you there. Not suspected of any crime.
Correct. That's what the sources state was the criteria, or lack thereof.
So the details they collected, some of the reporting is almost unbelievable. Air marshals were apparently collecting really intimate personal information way beyond normal security screening.
That's right. Things like what kind of smartphone you use. They were apparently trying to listen in on in-flight conversations.
Wow.
And even this is the one that gets cited a lot, marking down what exact times you went to the bathroom.
Okay, the bathroom breaks. Why? What possible security reason is there for tracking bathroom frequency of someone not suspected of a crime?
It's very hard to justify under any traditional security thinking, and adding to that concern is the data retention part.
Right. Where did all this info go?
Well, this highly personal identifying information, PII, it wasn't temporary. It was stored in the TSA's system, TISS, Transportation Information Sharing System, for, get this, up to 25 years.
25 years. For data on someone not suspected of anything.
Exactly. And that storage, without suspicion of a crime, is precisely why the new leadership framed it as a major infringement on, Fourth Amendment protections against unreasonable surveillance.
And the targets, it wasn't just politicians like Gabbard or those members of Congress, right?
No, not at all. The program reportedly targeted people associated with January 6th events, even just suspected of traveling to the National Capital Region around that time.
So just being in the area was enough.
Apparently so, according to the reports. And also, at least 24 people associated with groups protesting mask mandates.
Okay, so a pretty wide net, politically speaking.
It appears that way. And the new leadership, they're very explicit that ending Quiet Skies is crucial to, quote, restore the integrity, privacy, and equitable application of law for all Americans.
This focus on restoring integrity, it didn't just stop at airports, did it?
Sure.
What about CISA? The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency.
Right. CISA was another major area. DHS leadership confirmed they found substantial evidence of what they called mission creep and, again, alleged weaponization.
And what did they find specifically?
Well, the quote was they found literally thousands of documents that have proven that they were involved in censorship and policing speech through CISA.
Policing speech?
Yeah.
How isn't CISA supposed to be about protecting infrastructure from hackers?
That's its core mission, yes. Protecting critical infrastructure, helping businesses against hackers. But the sources explain that CISA staff were reportedly coordinating with third-party tech platforms, social media companies, and flagging specific domestic narratives, viewpoints for potential removal or, de-amplification, being hidden or downranked.
So using government resources to influence what people see and say online.
That's the allegation. And the new leadership argues this moved CISA way beyond its intended mandate. So the goal now is a real concerted effort to pull CISA entirely away from anything related to speech and push it back squarely onto its core functions. Securing U.S. infrastructure, protecting against foreign hackers.
Okay, so if they're pulling people away from jobs like policing speech, that naturally leads to the budget, right? Efficiency, cost-cutting?
Exactly. That's the second big pillar here. Fiscal responsibility, or what the administration calls right-sizing the department.
Right-size.
Yeah. So because they believed CISA staff were doing this, quote, work that they shouldn't have been doing, like policing speech.
They cut the budget.
Big time. Proposed cut of $500 million from CISA's budget, $500 million, justified directly by removing staff from those activities.
Wow. And were there other cuts? TSA, maybe?
Yep. About $247 million proposed to be cut from the TSA budget. Again, the rationale given is refocusing the agency on traditional security missions, moving away from, the kind of intrusive surveillance we just talked about with Quiet Skies.
Okay, CISA, TSA. But then there's FEMA. That one sounds more controversial.
It is, definitely. This emphasis on efficiency, or maybe ideology, depending on your view, hits FEMA hard. Critical programs, things supporting flood mitigation, they've been halted. Disaster relief staff slashed.
Why? I mean, FEMA seems pretty core mission.
The administration's stated reason is that previous FEMA grant programs had been, in their view, inappropriately shifted into climate change priorities. Instead of focusing purely on immediate disaster recovery, they argue this diversion of funds actually puts Americans at grave risk.
But cutting FEMA staff, especially disaster relief, heading into hurricane season or wildfire season, that sounds risky too.
Absolutely. That's the major criticism. Sources are warning that cutting, reportedly, a fifth of FEMA's workforce, including leadership, could seriously impede their ability to respond effectively when disasters hit. So this is really where that ideological drive for efficiency meets, potential real-world consequences, and Congress is watching this one very closely.
Yeah, it is.
And speaking of risk and maybe questionable spending, the new DHS leadership also kicked off some intensive oversight into highly dangerous research. Biological research previously funded by the department.
Okay, like what kind of research?
This involves work, both classified and unclassified, at the National Biodefense Analysis and Countermeasures Center. NBACC.
NBACC. Their job is usually developing countermeasures against biothreats, right, like from other countries.
That's the traditional and critical mission, yes.
Yeah.
But the new leadership reportedly found experiments there that were, let's say, pushing the boundaries way past just defense.
How so?
We're talking about things like attempts to re-engineer virulent anthrax strains, or even experiments involving aerosolizing deadly pathogens.
Aerosolizing, you mean making them airborne?
Yes, things like the plague or even Ebola in controlled lab settings.
Whoa, okay, that sounds incredibly dangerous. Why would a Homeland Defense Agency be funding research that sounds like it could create a homeland threat?
That is precisely the question being asked. It raises serious concerns, obviously, about safety, potential lab leaks, but also about things like biological weapons convention compliance. And just fundamentally, is this kind of high-risk, gain-of-function work appropriate for DHS? Does it create more internal risk than any external threat it's trying to counter?
So they're investigating where the money went and if it was appropriate.
Exactly. Ensuring taxpayer dollars aren't funding science that's deemed excessively dangerous or, frankly, just not suitable for DHS's mission.
And all these changes, the program cuts, the budget shifts, the investigations, it seems to point towards a theme of accountability, maybe transparency.
Definitely. That's a stated goal. Secretary Noem specifically pledged to be highly responsive to Congress, and she contrasted that with her predecessor, who, she noted, had routinely ignored oversight letters.
And has that happened? More transparency.
While the numbers suggest a big shift, the department has apparently provided something like 50,000 pages of information to congressional committees already. That indicates a pretty significant reversal on transparency compared to past practices.
Okay, so we've covered surveillance, censorship concerns, budget cuts. Let's pivot now to what the administration is really highlighting as its maybe biggest success story, the southern border.
Right. Securing the border was priority number one, explicitly stated. Strict enforcement, achieving operational control, that was the mandate.
And the statistic they keep citing is just, it's hard to ignore. DHS is reporting a 93% drop in daily encounters since the president took office. 93%.
It's a stunning figure, and based on these numbers, they are declaring the border the most secure in American history.
Okay, but how? What explains such a massive drop? 93% is huge.
Well, you have to look at the enforcement changes on the ground. The administration has focused heavily on prosecuting and removing individuals much more quickly, and also targeting the networks, the criminal organizations that facilitate these crossings.
Like cartels.
Exactly. I've actually designated 6 specific cartels and 4 other dangerous criminal gangs as foreign terrorist organizations.
FTO designation that gives them more tools, presumably.
More tools, more authorities to go after their finances, their operations. And we see some specific results reported, like with drug trafficking. Fentanyl traffic at the border reportedly fell 54% in March compared to the previous year.
54% drop in fentanyl in 1 month compared to the year before. That's a significant operational win, especially for communities hit by the opioid crisis.
It is, though, we always have to ask with these kinds of sharp drops, is the metric entirely sustainable? Is it partly a result of maybe comparing slightly different data sets or methodologies than previous years? These are questions experts are asking.
Sure, context is important.
But regardless, the clear intent is strict enforcement. And another key part of their strategy is about cost. They're actively encouraging self-deportation.
Self-deportation as an alternative to forced removal.
Yes, because it's vastly more cost-effective.
How much cheaper are we talking?
Well, the numbers are pretty eye-opening. Yeah. Self-deportation, where someone leaves voluntarily after being ordered, costs roughly $4,500 per person.
Okay.
Forced deportation, where ICE has to physically detain and remove someone, that can cost upwards of $17,000 per person.
Wow, that's like nearly 4 times the cost.
Exactly. So encouraging self-deportation saves significant taxpayer money while still achieving, from their perspective, that goal of regaining operational control over the immigration system.
Yeah.
So when you pull back and look at everything we've discussed, what we've seen across these sources is really a profound and incredibly rapid ideological shift for DHS. It's a massive course correction for an agency with, what, $100 billion budget?
Yeah, it's huge.
And the core drivers behind this shift seem really clear now. You've got strict border enforcement as number one. Then these cost reduction measures focused on efficiency, sometimes controversially, like with FEMA.
Right.
And perhaps most significantly, the systematic dismantling of programs that were perceived by the new leadership as politically motivated surveillance and censorship, like Quiet Skies and parts of CISA.
So this whole deep dive, it really illustrates just how quickly a strong political mandate can pivot a massive federal agency like DHS, how it can dramatically redirect its mission, its focus. And that focus seems to have shifted incredibly fast, moving away from things like surveilling Americans or allegedly policing speech, towards restoring what the administration is calling constitutional integrity, cutting waste, and really focusing on securing the physical border.
Right. And maybe here's the provocative question to leave folks with. The sources confirm DHS handed over 50,000 pages of records to Congress detailing these alleged mission violations, things within TSA, within CISA.
A huge data dump reversing previous obstruction.
Exactly. So if this kind of deep-seated activity, whether it's tracking political opponents or funding potentially dangerous pathogen research or censoring speech, if that was found happening within DHS, well, what other federal agencies might be concealing politically motivated activities that could be infringing on liberty and constitutional rights that we just don't know about yet?
That's definitely something to think about. Food for thought.